Alright, so in this video, we're now going to start creating our conversation and message model. So for that, we can open a new terminal. In here, we can simply type PHP artisan make model conversation with a capital C, here M, FS. Alright, just after that, just click the arrow up key. Then here, let's change this one to message. And then click enter. Alright, awesome. Now, after creating that, let's go to our conversations table. Right here, we're gonna first of all create an unassigned big integer. I'm gonna call this one sender ID. Down here, I'm gonna create a foreign. This one sender ID that we just created. Now, this is just another way of creating foreign keys instead of using constraint, which is a much faster option, but let's also use the different ways. We can say references ID on which table? On users table. Now we can simply copy these two, paste them here, and then change this one from sender to receiver ID. And then in the conversation, since we are working with Tinder, whereby a conversation is going to be linked to a match, so we can just paste that one more time, change this to match ID. And then the only difference with these is that the match ID is going to reference ID on the swipe matches table, and we're going to do cascade on delete, which means if the match is deleted, we also want to delete the conversation. That's how Tinder works, I think. Right, and down here, just add table, soft deletes. Alright, now after that, let's go to our messages table, actually, migration. In here, we're going to have a similar thing. First of all, a message is going to be linked to a conversation. So here, type table, foreign ID, conversation ID, constraint, we can say cascade on delete, comma there. In here, I'm going to repeat these ones. If you go to the conversations, we can just copy this, receiver ID and sender ID, and all their references. And let's just paste these. Here, I choose to use sender ID and receiver in the messages, but in the conversation, you don't have to name them these. You can just say user 1 and user 2. I use this just to maintain consistency between the conversation and the users table. Otherwise, in here, this is not really necessary, sender and receiver. But in here, in the messages, these are very necessary. In the messages table, we're going to have table, timestamp is going to be read at when time the message is read, and then finally, we're going to have a table and a text body. This one can be nullable, and also the timestamp can also be nullable. In here, I use text because a text can hold more characters than a string, so a text is much better in terms of message field. Alright, now after that, next, let's go to our conversations model. In here, we're first going to have protected guarded. Next, a conversation can have many messages. So here I'm going to link messages. This one has many, the return type. We can say return this has many message. Alright, after creating that, down here I'm going to have a conversation is going to belong to a single match. So we can say function match belongs to, down here we can say belongs to swipe match class. Alright. Now next, you're gonna define something. This is not really a relationship. This is a method, a helper, because sometimes we might not know if the current authenticated user is the sender or the receiver in the conversation. Alright, so just to help us get that, we can create this function here. Let's call this one get receiver. So you're gonna say if this dot sender ID is equals to auth ID, then we're gonna return the user, the first where the ID is this receiver ID, this one, the receiver ID that we have in our conversations table. Right, or else we're gonna return, let's copy this, we're gonna return the user where the ID is this sender ID, this one. Right, that's it for this one. Now in our other model, let's go to our message model. In our message, we're gonna do the same here. Let's add protected guarded. Right, next we're gonna have protected dates. Let's say red hat. The reason why we're adding this is because it's gonna make us easy for us to use with Carbon. It's going to format this by default because Laravel already formats on our behalf the created art and the updated art fields, but it does not format any other timestamps field you put later. So for us, we have to format it by ourselves using this protected date. This will make it easy for us to use with Carbon in our blade or our components. So let's define the relationship. We could say conversation. So a message belongs to one conversation, right? Let's create one more function, is read. This is going to help us determine if the current message is read or not. So we return this read at is not equals to null, which means this is read. All right, now let's work on our final model. We can open the swipe match. All right, for our swipe match, the swipe match can only have one conversation. So here I'm going to say public function conversation. This has one conversation class. Alright, if there's no error, we can go ahead and open our terminal and try to migrate our database. So here PHP artisan migrate. Awesome, and now our conversations table has been created and our messages table. So yeah, so that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.